This screencast is going to show how an author might set up directories for his manuscripts. The very simplest way, this is a file browser. I'm going to move this out of the way. In fact, I'll close it and I'll show how to open it in a minute. Simply the simplest way to set up your manuscript directory would be to put it on your desktop. So if you have any windows open, let's say we have Firefox open, either close it or drag it down out of the way, or minimize it by clicking this button. If you have any other windows open, do the same thing. Get them out of the way so you can see your desktop. This is the Windows desktop. You can create a manuscript directory right there by right-clicking, which brings up a context menu, arrowing, just moving the mouse down to New, moving the mouse across to Folder, and then just left-click. Now you have a brand new empty folder on your desktop. If this is where you want to put your manuscripts, rather than leaving it with a new folder name, see if I just click somewhere else, the folder's name is New Folder. Well, we don't want that. We want to give it a better name. Let's right-click on it and click Rename. Let's call this Manuscripts and hit Enter. There we go. Now we have a new folder named Manuscripts where you can put your manuscripts. Now, if you have just one manuscript, you can put it in this folder. To open this up, just double-click on it. Now we have a file browser open to that particular directory. Now, let's create a dummy manuscript. Let's open a text editor. We'll open a text editor. We'll click on the Start button. We're going to open the text editor named Notepad. Now I see a Notepad plus because this is a better text editor that I've installed. But let's suppose you don't have that installed. Type in the search box Notepad, and up will come the Windows Explorer that is to say the Windows Notepad program. Click on it. This is just like a word processor, except it doesn't have quite as many fancy features. Here you're in Notepad. We'll create a new file. Let's say we'll create a novel. File, New. Now, we'll begin, let's say we'll specify the author. That's one way to put in the author, but it's better to put it in last name first. So I'm going to change that to last name first. The reason it's better to do it this way is because the software that will convert your manuscript to a Kindle eBook expects the name that way. Otherwise, your name won't sort correctly when someone looks at your book in the Kindle. So we'll give it the name of the author, and let's give the book a title, and the title might be Stormy Night. That's enough to begin with for a novel. Let's enter a first chapter. The first chapter might actually be your title page, which should say something like Stormy Night. Maybe you have a subtitle. You could enter that here. A Wild Night's Adventure. And then maybe you have a copyright page. Notice that each chapter, and I'm treating a title page like a chapter, I'm treating the copyright page like a chapter, and I'll treat real chapters like chapters. Let's say copyright whatever, and you can fill that in later. I'm anxious to get going. We could have an acknowledgments chapter, we could have a dedication chapter, we could have anything. Let's get right to it, and let's have a chapter 1. And we'll fill this in. It was a dark and, well, you get the picture there. Fill that in with a little more detail on a real novel. And let's have another chapter. And along came a spider. Type your novel. Finish that chapter. Type another chapter. And finally, we're through, and maybe we have an author's page. And there's our whole novel. Rather a bare outline for a novel, but it will do for our purposes today. Let's save this file. Click on File. Click on Save. Because it's untitled, it's going to ask us for a file name, and it's going to ask us where to put it. Well, we're going to put it in your desktop directory. So just click on Desktop and look for that folder that you created, the manuscripts folder. Double click there. Now you're in your manuscripts folder, and that's where we're going to save it. The file name will end in .text because this was done in a text editor. What should we name this novel? The title of the novel, Stormy Night. Do we want to name it Stormy Night.text? That would work. Now we'll get rid of the asterisk with the delete key. That name looks okay for a novel. Save it. Okay, now let's say we're done with it. We'll close our text editor. And here in our manuscripts directory is stormynight.txt. Let's close this file browser. We're back to our desktop. There's the manuscripts directory. So, well, I'm ready to work on my novel again. Let's double click on that. There's my novel sitting right there. I'm going to right click on this to say open. If I just click open, my guess is it will open up in the Word, in the TextPad, excuse me, in the Notepad application. But let's see. Let's click on open and see what happens. Yes, it opened in Notepad. Let's close that. Let's right click on Stormy Night. Let's click on edit and see what happens. Again, it opened in Notepad. That's fine. Let's right click on it again. Oops, I didn't want to edit the name. Right click on it. I could edit with Notepad, or I could open with, if I had some other text editor I wanted to use, I could open it with something else. But really, in this case, opening it in either Notepad or Notepad++ is what we would want to do every time. Edit with Notepad++. Up comes your manuscript in that editor. A little bit large. I would adjust the font size to make that a little smaller for my convenience. View. There's probably a make the text smaller somewhere, or set the fonts to a different size, but we're going to ignore that. We'll close that. Okay, so now we've done the simplest thing possible. We set up a folder on the desktop to hold the manuscript. By the way, I probably should have named it manuscript and not manuscripts with an S at the end if I was really only going to put one manuscript in it. However, what if you write another book? You're going to want to have at least 2 manuscripts, right? Well, let's don't put them all in the same directory. Let's put each manuscript in its own dedicated directory. So let's open this manuscripts folder. I'll double click on it. Suppose I did not want Stormy Night in the main manuscripts directory, but I wanted it in a subdirectory. I would right click here and choose New Folder. I would give this a name, such as, now what do you want to call it? We've named the manuscript itself stormynight.txt. We could name the folder Stormy Night. Wouldn't hurt anything. But let's just name it Stormy. And you can hit the Enter key. And now we have a directory named Stormy. Well, let's look in it by double-clicking on it. It's empty. Well, where did our manuscript go? Well, it's in the parent directory, the directory that contains the Stormy subdirectory. We need to get this manuscript into that directory. The easiest way is just to click and drag it, but I'm going to show you a slightly different way. I'm going to right-click. I lit up on the right mouse button, but don't. Right-click and keep holding the right mouse button down. Now drag it. When you see Move to Stormy, let go of the right mouse button, and you get a little menu that asks whether you want to copy or move it. I like to see that menu because sometimes I want to copy and sometimes I want to move. So in this case, we do want to move it, so I click on Move here. Presto, the manuscript is gone from the manuscripts directory. Let's open the Stormy directory. Yes, there's our manuscript. Now we can go back to the upper directory by clicking here or by clicking on this back button. Here's our manuscripts directory. Let's say we decide to write another novel. Instead, in addition to Stormy Night, let's write a novel named Windy Day. So I can right-click here, create a new folder, give it the name of, if the Stormy Night book was in a folder named Stormy, the Windy Day book could be in a folder named Windy. W-I-N-D-Y. Hit Enter. Now we have two manuscript subdirectories underneath the main manuscript directory. We can go into Windy, the Windy directory, double-click, as you'd open your text editor, create a new manuscript, start typing, and you'd save it as, well, let's do that. Click on the Start button. We now have Notepad in our list because we'd opened it recently. If we really wanted to open Stormy Night again, we could just click here, but we want to open a new one. So we'll just click right there. It opens up Notepad. We'll create a file, a new file, and we'll give it a, this time I won't even give it an author or anything else, but I will give it a title just to remember the title. The title is Windy Day, and it has a chapter 1, and you fill it in, and you have a chapter 2, and that's enough. So now I'll save it. File. Since it's brand new, you can click Save or Save As. I'm going to click Save As this time. Save As, well, do we want to save it in the manuscript directory? No. We want to save it in the Windy directory. So we double-click here. It wants to save it as something.txt, so we type windyday.txt. You can name it anything you want. You could have also named this just Windy. Then you'd have windy.txt. Then you'd have a folder named Windy and a text file named windy.txt. Would that be confusing? I think you could deal with that confusion. But here maybe it'll be a little less confusing. The folder itself will be named Windy. The manuscript inside it will be a text file named windyday.txt. Good, that's what we want. If you're in Notepad, leave this set to ANSI. Click Save. All right. I'm through with the text editor. Close it. Notice we have our manuscript now inside our Windy subdirectory. So let's close this and look at it all again. We're at the desktop. If you had anything in the way of the desktop where you could not see this folder icon, move those windows out of the way. Double-click to open the manuscript directory. Within it, you have 2 subdirectories. Now, when I say directory, it means exactly the same as folder. Folder, directory, subdirectory, subfolder are all synonymous. So here we have the manuscript directory. It has 2 subdirectories. All right, which book do you want to work on today? All right, I want to work on Wendy today. So double-click that to enter the Wendy subdirectory. There's the file. Right-click and choose Open with your whichever editor you want to use on it. Let's say we'll just click Open. It'll open in Notepad. There it is. Say, well, this is a rather bare novel. I think I better flesh it out a little bit. Maybe add some characters and some plot and some adventure to it. At this point, I've just opened it. I haven't made a change. Let me hit Enter twice and type, "Hello," said to somebody. But let's say we're going to close this. We forget to save it. I'll click the X to close it. Notepad is kind enough to warn me that I have not saved the latest changes. I have a choice of saving them or abandoning them by clicking Don't Save. In this case, I think I'll save it. Click Save. There we go. Okay, that's how to manage your manuscript directories and your manuscripts. The simplest way is to do it directly from your desktop. You don't have to do it there. You can open your file browser, Windows Explorer, and you can make a manuscript directory underneath your home directory and put subdirectories under it. It'll work just as well. In fact, let's do that. Right-click on the Start button, open Windows Explorer, click on Computer. Now you want to find your home directory. It's going to be somewhere under Local Disk C. It's going to be under the subdirectory named Users. And then look for your username, which will probably be your first name. In my case, the directory is named Frank. So I'm going to left-click on that to select it. The contents of my home directory appear on this right-hand side. I'm going to make this window a little bigger. Now, I'm going to click here to make sure it's sorted by the name of the file. And there we go, sorted in alphabetical order. Do I have a folder in here named Manuscripts? Well, let's look under the M's. No, I don't have a folder named Manuscripts. I could create one and then create subdirectories underneath it, just like I did on the desktop. You don't have to do that on the desktop. You can do it in your home directory. Well, since I have already created those, they're right here. I can move this entire folder into my home directory by right-clicking on it, keep the right mouse button down, drag it over to the destination folder. Now I don't want it saving it within one of those, so I'm going to move it back and I'm going to hit the Escape key to let go of it without actually moving it. I want to make sure there's some free space in this directory to serve as a target for me to drop this. So now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to right-click, hold the right mouse button down, drag it to some free place where you say, where it gives you the choice to move to Frank. Well, it might have worked. Oh, here, see, if I have it right over a document it's going to try to move it into that subdirectory. I don't want that. I want it to move, I want to say move to Frank. So when I see that, I can let go of the right mouse button. Now I have a choice of moving or copying. In this case, I want to actually move it. So I click on Move here. That folder vanishes from the desktop. For all practical purposes, your desktop is just a folder that's always open and right there on the screen. Now look under the M's. Make sure you have the name column sorting. There's my manuscript directory. Now let's open it up. I can open it up here by double clicking, or I can find it here in this on this side under Frank. There's the manuscripts folder. I can click it once here to select it. So within the manuscript directory, there are my two subdirectories for the two different novels I'm writing. I can open this up and we'll see them individually. You can select one or the other. Or from this one, where you see both of them, you can double click on the one you want. So that's another way to handle your manuscript directory. Now, if I put the manuscript directory in my user, underneath my user directory, my home directory, I still might want to have a shortcut on the desktop to move there. So we'll have the best of both worlds. I'll have the manuscript directory underneath my home directory, which is under Drive C, Users, and there it is. Let's say I want a shortcut to the manuscript directory on the desktop. I just grab this with the right mouse button, drag it here, let go of the right mouse button, and here I don't choose copy, I don't choose move, I choose create shortcuts here. Notice it says create shortcuts here, but it actually just creates one shortcut. Nevertheless, that's what I wanted. Now I have a shortcut that will immediately move me to my manuscripts directory within my user directory, within my home directory. So to get there, I just double click, and there I am within the manuscripts directory. I can pick which novel I want to work on, double click to open it in the text editor, and continue with my work. Alright, that concludes this screencast on setting up directories for an author's manuscripts.